Pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil will remain in Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility in Louisiana for now. That was a judge's ruling during a brief court hearing in New York City Wednesday. Khalil is a Columbia University graduate and legal U.S. resident who helped lead protests at the school last year over Israel's war in Gaza. He was arrested by immigration authorities Saturday. The Trump administration wants to deport Khalil, but a judge blocked that from happening. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had this to say about the case Wednesday.
This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason.
CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano was at Wednesday's hearing. She joins us now. What did the government argue today?
Well, what the government was trying to do today was to say that the Southern District of New York is not the proper venue for this case to be heard. They're trying to either move the case to New Jersey or to Louisiana, where Mr. Khalil is at this moment. What we were just hearing from Secretary of State Marco Rubio about, it's not about free speech, it's about, the right or not to be in this country. He's saying that because the reasons that are being used or the legal reasoning for trying to deport him has something to do with a provision of what's called the Immigration and Nationality Act that is rarely used and would allow the Secretary of State himself to call for somebody's removal of either their green card or their visa so that they could be removed from the country if their activities are seen as potentially hurting the foreign policy interests of the United States. The government is saying that Khalil supported Hamas. They have not shown any evidence. I have interviewed several people. I've talked to people who know him, people who protested with him, who've all said, on the contrary, this is somebody who was a negotiator in the protest, not necessarily a leader of the protest, and that at no time did they hear him say or share any kind of Hamas-supporting flyers, as the White House has said. And so what we're waiting to hear is, what is it that the government is pointing at to say that this person should not be in the country?
Well, do they have to prove that? If the administration can say, we see this person as being antithetical to our foreign policy interests, is it just their
That's the question,
belief?
and that's where free speech comes in. Because why do you see this person as somebody who is threatening our foreign policy? Is it because they're protesting or have an unpopular view?
You spoke with Khalil's attorney. Tell us what he told you and also what happens next.
Well, he explained this provision, and something that I thought was very interesting, and to answer your previous question is, he says Secretary of State Rubio himself has to write a letter to Congress. We don't know if that letter has been written to demand the deportation. Let's listen to a little bit more of what he told me.
They've said a lot from that bully pulpit that has turned out to be baseless. There are no national security or foreign policy implications here. For as long as the United States has existed, people have been critical of the United States government. They've been critical of U.S. foreign policy. They've been critical of foreign governments. They shouldn't be incarcerated or disappeared or moved 1,000 miles away from their home, which is exactly what the government did to Mr. Khalil.
And that is the big question. Is it because of simple protest, or do they have evidence? And now, apparently, if they want to use this provision, the burden of proof, the burden of showing that evidence is on the Secretary of State himself. Everybody's watching this story because if there's no evidence that he was supporting Hamas explicitly, if there's no evidence of activities that could be seen as a threat to the United States, then this is a First Amendment case, and it's going to be very hard for the government to succeed to meet that bar of the First Amendment.
Lilia Luciano, thank you.
Thank you.